Hey guys, Ryan here, and we are here for another episode of the Lap Down podcast. Here, I believe this is episode number 6. And as usual, you got Nighthawk off to my left. You got me in the middle. You got Jamie off to my right. Then on the bottom row, we got JP in the middle and Rumble in the bottom right. And we've got a new person joining us as well tonight. Welcome in Chuck from South Carolina. Chuck, you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Go ahead. What do you want to know? Ask me some questions. What about? I mean, I'm not really talking about myself, but I'll answer some
And say,
questions.
who's your
I actually
favorite
know the
driver?
guy
How
who's
you
been.
got into
It's a pleasure
What
to
an
NASCAR?
be here,
asshole.
though. It's a pleasure to be here, though. Pretty cool.
Chuck, if you can just talk a little bit about how you got into NASCAR, who your favorite driver is, possibly.
Yeah. So, I got NASCAR. I mean, when I was a kid, my dad had a boat, and we always went out in the water, and he would always have it on the radio, and I didn't know much about it at the time. But it was pretty cool to hear the guys get excited and kind of pit like today. They put a picture in your face, in your face, excuse me, in your mind. But no, we that's how I came to know about it. And he was an Earnhardt fan, and so I became an Earnhardt fan. And actually, the first race I watched with him, we went to Virginia for a event, something going on. It was at a hotel in a big convention center, and they had the 500 on. And the reason why I remember that so much is not because of the race, it's because that was the first time I had honey mustard. Being from West Virginia, we we didn't have much. But yeah, that's how I started becoming a NASCAR fan. Was my father got me into that just by listening to it on the radio.
All right. And then, if I'm not
And who's your
mistaken,
current favorite driver?
yep.
My current favorite driver will be Chase Elliott. The reason why I got with him is I got out of the sport for the longest time, and my first race was actually in '07. I was a little late bloomer for that to actually see a race, but I became a junior fan around that time. I mean, I paid attention to it, but never really was committed. And like a lot of people, as he was moving out of the sport and getting out and retiring, I just felt, let's go for something new. And I always liked Bill Elliott, so I was like, why not? Let's go for Chase. Now, at first with the 24, I was kind of, but yeah, it grew on me, and I'm a big Chase fan now.
All right. So with that,
Hell yeah.
I believe that's everybody introduced. As I say, you guys know all the others, and we'll get on to the first topic of discussion here. So we got the Clash results. So if say I can pull them up real quick, but say Nighthawk, if you want to start off with just kind of your initial reaction to the Clash before I pull up the specifics.
So I didn't get to watch it, but I got to listen to it on the radio. It sounded very lackluster. It didn't sound like they were very into it. Uh, I mean, I guess the only upside is that they were able to still get MGK to do the concert. I mean, I guess that's a positive for them. At least they came out with something because they would have paid him for no reason. I'm sure they lost a lot of money, but other than that, Ty Dibbs did Ty Dibbs. Ty Gibbs did really good. And I like I predicted on the last podcast I thought he was going to win. He almost did, but unfortunately he spun out.
Yep. So okay, I got the results up here, but yeah, I mean, for the most part, it was almost all the passing happened on the restarts, and that's just kind of how it is with short track racing, especially with a track this short. Makes it hard to make much of a pass other than on entrance to the corners.
Yeah,
And
and what I would add to that is since you do mention that going see this is another thing I do have a problem with is it's a crapshoot. You have like I was listening to them on the radio. They were saying, "Oh, they just go. Some of them go flying in the corner, don't even give a crap, and they cause other people to wreck so they can gain multiple spots. Like, how's that fair?
I
Like,
mean, there weren't
this
many
isn't.
crashes that actually
Um,
happened this year comparatively, but
it's just something I found odd that they were like promoting positively.
yeah, I mean, it is pretty much the only way to make a pass around there. But yeah, so Denny Hamlin ended up winning the whole thing. Kyle Busch coming up in second place, his third podium in the 3 races in LA. Blaney really the only driver who moved through the field significantly. Got uh, all the way up to third place by the end of it. But it's just kind of one of those things that once you get up there, the battle between second and third allows the leader to pull away and ultimately just lets a guy like Hamlin or Ty Gibbs or even Joey Logano just pull away and check out. Now, full disclosure, I was watching the race, but I didn't have the volume on because I was actually live reacting to it over on YouTube on my own channel. And ultimately, after rewatching it and rewatching highlights and stuff, the TV cameras did not do the race necessarily any real justice because guys like Bubba Wallace got spun out on the last lap. The TV cameras never showed it. Moments after the checkered flag, they're panning up to the crowd to show Chris Gabehart just packing everything up with no real emotion. They missed easy stuff like Ricky Stenhouse Jr. going over and talking to John Hunter Nemechek during the halfway break. I never even saw a Machine Gun Kelly concert, so I don't know for sure that even happened because I didn't see that on the TV at all.
Well, according to the radio, they said that he was able to be bumped up and he's there. I don't know. They said he was supposed to.
All right. Well, I didn't see it, but it's possible I just missed it. But yeah, and then
Or they just didn't show it on TV.
And then the post-race confrontation between Logano and Ty Gibbs was also missed by Fox. So, I mean, it just kind of goes back to I feel like the production quality at Fox has been dipping over the last 5-6 years, and
yeah,
I will say that's one thing I'm hoping for with this new TV deal, introducing more TV partners that it provides more competition and forces Fox to try and take the product more seriously, because the product they actually showed compared to what happened wasn't really done justice. Jamie?
No, I mean, I'll start from kind of like the beginning stages. Like, I want to commend NASCAR for actually working through with knowing that the weather was coming and making the change and having everything still line up with like the TV programming and the and all the ins and outs of getting the teams ready and to where they could still put on a race on a short notice. Even though I wish they would have announced it earlier. From what I heard through SiriusXM, I guess like the teams and drivers found out around like 9:30 that morning.
Yeah,
but they didn't really announce anything until a little bit later. Once they solidified that they could get the TV programming to air it.
Yeah, it was about it was about like 4:30 when I got the text about it being moved up.
Right. So kudos to them for still being able to get it on. So I thought it was a good race. I thought it was better than the past 2 years as far as from a performance standpoint. You hit on Ryan Blaney. I think he's probably the one to watch, but I mean, it's the Clash. Not much is gained, not much is lost, but there's this thing called momentum, and getting a decent finish on the first race of the season can definitely create some momentum for those teams. So the ones that performed well, like the Denny Hamlins, the Kyle Busches, the Ty Gibbs, just the mental aspect of just being like, hey, for first race of the year, even though it's not for points, we were always in contention. We were always up towards the front. Things that we learned, if anything at all, about the card or just in general of that we still got a winning caliber team that we can go out there with confidence. That's cool. But then on the flip side, you got guys like Christopher Bell, who we've previously talked about being in the hot seat with JGR and what that leadership role could look like. Because once Denny and MTJ go, he's kind of like next man up, and he was the only one that didn't make the main race.
Yeah.
So if things like that, I would feel a certain type of way about. Um, I think that adds a little bit more pressure going into 500 week for that 20 team.
I will say though, one caveat to that though is that nobody in that final or in that final qualification group was able to find any speed. I mean, Ryan Blaney was a part of that same group, and he was like 35th on speed as well. So ultimately, he used a champion's provisional to get in as the 23rd driver. But yeah, it seemed like either temperature or track conditions were just not favorable for that last group.
Yeah, I mean, we can probably put a little testament to that, but at the same time, for a racing team the caliber of Christopher Bell and his team, it's just not a good look. Uh, with all the quality motors and performance and expectations that comes with JGR, you would expect all of their drivers to make it in. Same thing with Penske, but again, Blaney was lucky to get in with a provisional, but then once the race actually went in, he showed some things. So who knows? I just know from a mental standpoint, like from a team, it may not be much, but from a driver, I could see that frustration kind of building, and it may not seem like a factor going into 500 week, but he's always going to have that in the back of his mind that the first official race he couldn't even make it into the main.
Yep. All right, Chuck.
Well, excuse me. I'm gonna get right back to what he just said. Like, how many drivers didn't even make the race? Playoff drivers didn't even make the race. You know, the all around. I didn't really. I wasn't into the race. To me, it was just like a yawn. Uh, but like, kudos to the to get them going because there's a lot behind the scenes that we do not see. So Ryan, you said like after the race you didn't see a lot, but you got to understand like I believe it was the FS1. They had to move a lot of programs around just to get that race in, and I think they really tried to make it right. And I think they did a great job because I couldn't tell you how many times I've been in a race for it to get rained out, and you're just sitting in the stands waiting for an answer, and they'll try to get in, but a lot of times they don't. Um, I think the Clash. I don't think we should get rid of it, but I think we should get away from the Coliseum. My opinion. Like we talked earlier, I said it just needs to be try it out. All right, that was cool, and then just be away from it. My opinion, I think you should go back to Daytona. I think they should always have it. Don't get rid of it. But Blaney barely got in only because what was it? It was a pole. What was that? How
Champions
did
provision.
champions provision? Yeah, I think they should just go back to the old days and just get them. What you probably have 12 or 16 cars out on the track just from pole winners or make something. But there was a lot of drivers that were playoff drivers that didn't make the race, and I'm not saying they're bad drivers. It's just that track is just, to me, it's not a track. It's just a little bowl they put them in and just try to make it cool. That doesn't take from you don't making the race. I think they're heck of a drivers, but I think they should have at least got them in there. Because they're big names, and there's kids and families with their names on the hoodies, their hoodies, their shirts, hats, whatever. I think NASCAR did a great job of pulling it off for a Saturday night. I thought that was pretty cool that they're trying. That's why I like the sport so much because they're trying to make things different, and sometimes it don't work out. But no matter what, if they would have ran it Sunday and it rained, people would be talking about that. They should have started Saturday, and I understand that no matter what happens, somebody's going to have something to say. But I think they did a great job on that, and like I said, the race I wasn't into it. I didn't see MGK. I don't even know who that is.
Machine Gun Kelly.
I, yeah, I don't know. I don't listen to that, and I don't think I don't. I'm going NASCAR races. I don't want to see a guy I don't know. I mean, I don't know who they're reaching out for him. I mean, I'm going to listen to a guy named Machine Gun. I don't know what that is, but
It's
I just
California. I think
I
he's from
don't care where it is.
California or something.
NASCAR is NASCAR.
So,
Uh,
I was gonna
it-
keep my
it's the-
I was gonna keep my mic muted, but amen, Chuck. Thank you.
well, I mean NASCAR. I mean, it might be California, but we're over here in the South, or over in the where it started. We don't. I mean, let's play something that heck, bring out some old guys, or I think it was cool by other things. Like I think the first year they had Ice Cube, I mean that's great because I don't care who you are, you always there's a beat to that you liked. But I just think when it comes to the halftime, it's NASCAR. I mean,
I
we
hadn't
don't need a
really even heard
halftime
of Ice
sport.
Cube before he came to the Coliseum.
Well, that's fine, but I don't think there should be a halftime. That's just me. I don't see it, and even yes, I don't know. That's my opinion on the Coliseum. I think it was cool at first. It was really neat, and I just think that's played out now, and they should bring it back to Daytona. And I believe that NASCAR did a really cool and great thing when it came to broadcasting the start the race on Saturday.
So,
Can I chime in real quick, Ryan?
okay, yeah, go ahead.
So I don't think that they should go back to Daytona. As odd as that sounds, I think they should just take the Clash and just move it around. Just like you said, with how cool it was to see it at the Coliseum the first and the second time. I would argue that it made us talk about the Clash and the dynamic of the Clash and how it could consistently change depending on where they go with the Clash.
I heard them talking today about following the Super Bowl and just go to any fucking college fucking football place and build a quarter-mile track. It's silly. We got to get back to our roots. Sorry to
Well,
bug
I
you
don't
there.
know. I don't know if just like doing in football stadiums is the play, but I mean they talked about the Mexico series and the success that it was seeing those drivers out on that track. I wouldn't be opposed to them going to Mexico for the Clash, or in the sense like find kind of take like the idea of what they did with the All-Star race with North Wilkesboro, just kind of find like another track that maybe doesn't have a lot of publicity that has been remodeled and use that as a Clash. So like the Rockinghams, I know is getting remodeled up. I know that there's some other tracks like around the area, and I know the big thing is with Auto Club getting redone, they still want to have like a presence in the South California, but I'm sure there's probably other tracks that they could go to do the Clash. But if they made that like a every year thing where they constantly change it, that adds a new dynamic to the Clash that makes it fun. But again, if it's going to be football stadiums, I don't know how fresh that would be and how receptive people would be to that.
All right, so real quick, if I can just jump in here, going back to something that Chuck mentioned. It wasn't necessarily the way that they moved it up a day that I was upset with like NASCAR and the production. It was the on track and what cameras they choose to cut to during the race. Because like during the halftime, you had a guy go up to another driver's car, and we never got a shot of it. Or we had a guy got spun on the final lap, never got a shot of it during the broadcast. And it's stuff like that that I was frustrated with more than the actual moving up, because again, the weather was not playing nice this weekend.
No, not at all. And yeah, I mean, I saw clips of some veterans yelling at some rookies. I'll still count Ty Gibbs as a rookie because he's only in his second year.
Yep.
And I like Joey mixing it up with Ty Gibbs and Ricky Stenhouse, like literally putting his arm inside John Hunter Nemechek's car and taking down his net just so that he could lean in and yell at the kid.
Yep.
That was a little too aggressive in my book. I think something should have been said about that.
Well, and again, none of it got shown on the broadcast. We only got to find out through clips after the fact that there were even cameras on it. I mean, I think it was it
yeah,
last
and
year
I
or
agree
the year
to your
before
point.
when they missed Eric Jones throwing a helmet at somebody. Like, how do you miss something like that in a short track like this?
Yeah, but I agree. It should have been caught because it would definitely have added some much needed drama and anticipation going into the conversation that is the Daytona 500. and if we're already getting a little bit of dramas and a little bit of and a little bit of tension, that's never a bad thing for ratings and creating storylines that, even if it means that nothing, is still fun to talk about.
Yep. And going back to the topic about Rockingham, I would like to see almost them use the All-Star race as kind of your tribute to the fans, or kind of your throwback classic track. So like your North Wilkes, rotate it between like North Wilkesboro, Rockingham, when and if it gets NASCAR ready. Even the fairgrounds in Nashville, put that as part of the rotation to try and give the fans who want the history of the sport a rotation of those tracks without having to completely abandon them, and using the Clash to open your season for some of your more out there ideas, like the Clash of the Coliseum was 3 years ago, and like potentially a move to a track in Mexico, or maybe even something up in Canada would be.
Hey, Rumble will be all over that.
Yeah, but they got to do it right. I don't want to see a fucking road course in Canada. I haven't been there, but it just doesn't work for me.
I can hear it now.
I'm a purist. I'm a purist, man. I want to see oval track racing. I want to see it properly.
What would it be? The Winnipeg 500 kilometers?
The Winnipeg 500, bro. Let's go. Yeah, I'm just sitting there biting my. Yeah, exactly. 500 kilometers, whatever that would be in miles. I don't know. I'd have to break out my calculator,
roughly.
but that's what it would be. But like I said, I could get up. I could go out to Montreal and see a race, but I'm not really interested in seeing NASCAR or a road course at all.
Say, Rumble, you want to let us know some of your thoughts on the Clash?
Well, is it my turn?
Yeah.
All right. So here's what I got to say about that. I'm in agreement with everybody. I think we all agree that it was really cool that NASCAR got ahead of it and looked and said, this is going to be a complete rain out. No racing is going to happen. So let's do it tonight. So everything showed up there in a really short time. The crowds were low. But anyways, kudos for them for getting that done. But again, like I said, I turned it off. It's not, to me, that's not the product we should be bringing to the fans. Like, we're getting so far away from the fans that built this sport that we're looking at this little quarter-mile track and we're trying to get all these. It makes no sense to me. It's just wrong. And back in the day, to me, the Clash meant we were going back to Daytona. The season was firing up and we were getting ready to go racing again. And I just look at this and there's nothing good that I can see in it. I don't know. I know you guys probably disagree with me for the most part, but I just feel like let's just bring it back to Daytona where it belongs and get hyped up for the 500 and let's let her rip. And I've heard people talking about that everybody's just going to be single file. They're going to be practicing. They're going to be testing. Well, give them a package that is nothing like the 500 package and make them work for it. Make it a 25 lap shootout and only so there's another conversation I heard. It's just previous champions, pole winners from the season before. Let's thin out the field and just have it be like a 25 lap shootout. Get us ready for the 500. And there's so many points I wanted to hit on here, but I got to tell you, I just think it's wrong. We've done this. It's a third year now, and I think it's worn out its welcome, in my opinion, and we should do something else. And in my opinion, something else let's go back to Daytona. I'm going to leave it at that.
All right, JP.
All right. So here is my opinion. It was a complete crap of a race because, I mean, there was no passing back in the field. It looked like wrecking. I could have passed better on my NASCAR Heat 5 game. And it's like NASCAR, if you're going to have a race, move it around. I agree. Sorry, Rumble, but it doesn't need to be in Daytona every year. Move it around. It's supposed to be expedition race, so make it for expedition race and have the fans pick the track. NASCAR, you don't need to pick every single track there is.
Here's another idea. Instead of using actual NASCAR cars, why don't they mix it up and go to like dirt tracks and race like modified?
I actually like that idea, and I was gonna say if you want to keep going to LA, why don't they bring fucking go karts and race each other, and fuck,
Because
we'll all be entertained as shit.
because they had who did they have? Did they have Ross Chastain? Who was it that came to Georgetown, Jamie?
Yeah, it was Ross Chastain who was supposed
Yeah, I
to
mean
come to Georgetown.
they could have him. They could have them come down to Georgetown. Delaware also has a track down in Delmar. There's some nice dirt tracks down here that they could go to. Like, why not like give like little tiny dirt tracks? Go back to your roots and like race on dirt tracks. Doesn't have to be the actual stock car. Make like a modified or something.
Or the old Hickory Motor Speedway, right there in
That would,
Charlotte.
but that would be the thing, though. You got to change the 3,400-pound stock car on this little tiny. Like I said, it would be
Well, I
more
mean,
entertaining
who
to watch
knows?
them all race go karts against each other. It would be more fun to watch them racing go karts than it is to watch these fucking tanks cruising
Well,
around
what I
here
was
and
saying
reaching a
is,
maximum speed of 80 miles an hour.
what I was saying though is, who knows? With Ray Evernham going in and partnering up to purchase IROC, I would
Yeah.
not be opposed to having IROC, like having the playoff contenders and some of your main stars in NASCAR getting in those IROC cars for an exhibition race.
You're preaching to the choir because I've loved
So
And
IROC
that would be
racing
the
since
clash.
I was a young
going
man. Love IROC
going
racing.
going off the go kart idea. It's a far fetched idea, but Jamie, you remember back in the 90s and early 2000s, Milford had the go kart races.
Yeah, I was almost a participant. Oh,
So if
he
they went
sounded
like
like
they race
almost
in Dover,
Roboto, Mr. Roboto.
like oh sorry, well like if they
Como
went to do like
arigato.
instead of they could go to make like little makeshift tracks in town and track at places like Dover and Bristol. Instead of racing on the actual track, they can race go karts around inside the town. You know what I mean? Like they did in Milford.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be
But
fun.
They could race some legend cars. They could do anything else but what they're doing in LA. I
Mix it
don't
up.
believe they're giving us the best product that they have. You know, they could do better.
yeah,
They
I
could.
I I I agree with you. I give the Clash a F. I mean, I'm sorry, NASCAR. You go. You want to have a good product, move it around, do some different crap with it. Don't make it all about one thing and one thing only. I enjoyed that NASCAR is back, but that was pathetic this weekend.
Yeah, the thing is that they're trying to draw in a new audience, and I don't even think it's working, honestly.
All
So
right.
yeah,
Oh,
All right, I have one more thing to say about that. If we're trying to draw in a new audience, we're putting out the wrong product. If that's what NASCAR's planning, we're putting out the wrong product. Like, I think it would be more entertaining to watch them race anything but
I
fucking
will.
cup cars
One thing
at
about
fucking LA.
One thing about that though is that going into this next gen car, what we were all told by NASCAR and pretty much all their PR people was that this car was being designed for short tracks and road courses, and at least on the short track front, it's been pretty much a colossal failure across the board. So, the plan of
Absolutely.
doing a short track for the opener was probably planned around the idea that this car was going to be designed for short track racing, and it hasn't provided on that. But I would
It's
say
just
that's
not
more
good
of
racing, you guys.
well,
We
that
all
was
know
something
what
that
good racing in NASCAR is, and the Clash at LA is not good racing. We know that. We all know that. There's 6 of us in here. We all know that it's not good racing there. And if you disagree with me, then I guess I disagree with you because it's just not good.
But my point is that first off, you say for something like the Coliseum, you can't just sign a deal to do it 1 year and expect that to be even remotely profitable. So I mean, they had to do a multi-year agreement, and ultimately, that agreement we've now gotten to the end of that initial agreement, and if they move on,
I was going to ask you how many years are left in that agreement because I sure hope it's over soon.
yeah,
It's
it
just
was
not
a
good.
3-year agreement. This was the third year, which is why the discussion about it moving is up a lot. But going back to something that you mentioned, and I think Chuck also mentioned it, Rumble, but when it comes to the Clash, I still like the idea of it being a knockout format where every driver gets to try and race their way in, and it's not forcing and it isn't just being like, oh yeah, all the drivers who were Clash eligible get in. Because watching that bump line and talking about who's gonna get in, who's gonna miss out, I mean, that was entertaining stuff in the early evening on Saturday afternoon before the race. And I think the heat races would have added some extra drama to the weekend if it weren't for the weather cutting them out of the event.
It definitely did, but what was it? I think I heard 13 cars went like just you're gone, and so I also heard Charlotte. Just bring it to Charlotte. So if you're bumped out on that night, you drive an hour home. You're out of there, right? You're talking about LA across the country, truck drivers, crews. It's just I don't like it, and I'm gonna stick to my guns on that one. I think they need to end this. I really think it's seen its point, and it kind of needs to go away now. Maybe relive it in 10 years or something. I'll leave it at that.
All right. Well, I think it's probably a good time to move on to our second topic. Rumble, did you have a topic? Cause
Oh, I was already rumbling about that. My whole
okay.
thing was just this clash, right? I already said that last week. That's what was going to be my point. Let's
Uh,
make this better. Make racing great again.
all right. Jamie, would you like to lead this third topic about the about February 18th? Since I wasn't alive for the event.
Yeah. So with on February 18th, this is the official third time that the Daytona 500 will be held on this exact date. Since that initial race where Dale Earnhardt was blocking the rest of the field as much as he possibly can so that his 2 other drivers, in Dale Jr. and Michael Walter, could battle for the race win. That ended up causing him to get hit in his right rear corner panel and sent straight up into the cement wall, which ultimately ended his life.
Yeah,
Um,
I hated Sterling Marlin for that, but then looking
yeah,
back
but
on it, it wasn't his fault. It was racing.
it was just racing. It was a freak
Yes, it was.
thing.
Yep,
And
it was.
unfortunately, we saw a legend die at Daytona doing what he loved best.
My hero.
And I remember watching that as a kid. and seeing like it on TV, it didn't look like much. It looked like just a normal wreck. And when when all the celebrations stopped and everybody was just looking on, I looked up at my dad, and I saw something that I hardly ever saw. I saw tears welling up in his eyes and worry on his face. So it's definitely a moment I'll always remember. But on a happier note, I'll always remember when Dale Earnhardt finally won the Daytona 500 and seeing every single race team line up on the infield, ready to acknowledge and congratulate him, because that was kind of like Kyle Busch. Uh, it was the one title in NASCAR that he has never had, was his name being put as a winner of the Daytona 500. Unfortunately, those are the two things that sticks out when it comes to the Daytona 500. Yes, I know like Dale Jr. winning was a special moment, but when it comes to Dale Sr., those are the two things I instantly think about. And I felt it was fitting. It's the third time that we might as well talk about the number 3 GM Goodwin Chevy. Um, so I kind of wanted to bring that up. This is kind of like a tribute show. Just kind of hear around for those who actually were able to watch it. What were your thoughts? One about the incident itself, and what kind of memories do you have of that day? Brian, you can go ahead and go through the order there because I don't see it.
All right, Nighthawk.
I would be first.
Are we talking about February 18th, 2001?
Yeah.
Yes, sir, we are.
Yeah,
All
I'll
right.
go first.
All right, fire away. Absolutely.
So I didn't get a chance to watch it. I was with my girlfriend at the time. I was 19. And we were at the restaurant that now does not exist. It's now Royal Farms in Harrington. Do you remember the restaurant, Jamie? You might be too young for that, though.
You got jokes.
But no, you might remember it. It was there before Royal Farms became Royal Farms. But it was a restaurant there, and we were sitting in the restaurant eating. And I can't remember. I think it was a TV on in like the back there, and it came up on Sports Center, and it was it was crazy. It hit home, and that was my girlfriend's favorite driver, and her birthday is February 3rd. So every year February 3rd comes around, I always think of that. So yeah,
All right.
it was nice watching him, even though he was hated, but it was fun watching him.
All right. Chuck.
All right. Well, it kind of blew my mind. And Jamie said that earlier this evening that only happened 3 times on this date since, and I wasn't aware of it, honestly.
Yeah, it happened in 2018, this year, and then 2001.
Yeah, and like I said, I didn't come to my attention at all. I never really thought about it. Yeah, the wreck, man, it did not look like it, the way it should have went. It's just we saw so much more. We've seen more wrecks worse than that since. Um, he was real respecting the sport and still to this day. Do I remember where I was? I actually was playing a basketball game and came home. My dad was watching, and he was upset. Like I didn't know what was going on until he told me. We sat there and watched it, and yeah, man, it's just it's something in the sport that all these drivers get involved, and they can die any moment. I don't care how safety it is. Them boys are tough. They're amazing athletes, and you get in it and you go. That's what they do, and it was a sad day. I mean, I can't express or say anything different. Everybody doesn't feel. So yeah, I remember that day, and like I said, wasn't aware. It was only the third time since, but he still remembered at every track. And I remember. You remember the first few races? They had quiet on the third lap, and I thought it was cool. I don't know. It was Atlanta, the second race. His car won that race. I think that's pretty cool. I think it was the 29, but Kevin Harvick's first win, wasn't it?
I think that Atlanta race
number
came later in the
29,
year,
different.
if I remember
Or the third
correctly.
race?
Was it a white car or something?
Yeah, the
white one,
white
good wrench.
29 with Harvick, but that win I
was-
think came later in the year. It wasn't the first race after.
It might have been the second race.
Yeah.
No, it was third race.
Third, it was right there. Yeah, so it was the third race of the season, which that's that brought a lot of people together and a lot of emotion. I'm sure, which was pretty cool.
All right. Rumble, you want to chime in?
I'm gonna chime in about Senior. So I was cheering for Senior back in his Wrangler days, and when he went to the number 3, the Good Wrench car, black, just huge fan. The day that he passed, when I seen that crash, and I think we talked about this before. DW said, "I hope he's okay," and they never really showed the car again. I think they showed Kenny Schrader going over to the car and motioning for like the paramedics to get the fuck over here. And I knew it was bad. I knew it was bad. My mom phoned me later that day after they announced it, like on CNN, that Dale Earnhardt had died at the Daytona 500, and we all seen the announcement. And my mom phoned me, and she was like, "I'm so sorry, Dale Senior was like my hero. He's like that fucking blue collar." Now they know we have a kid named after him, so Dale Senior was like my hero. He's that blue collar fucking guy, and it just meant so much to me. He meant so much to me, and so following that, I mean, everybody became everybody that was a Senior fan became a junior fan by default, right? Like that just happened. Like we were cheering for him. We were talking about him winning. Was it the Daytona 2 the next year? Like just amazing stuff. Yeah, it's just brutal. Senior was my hero. It really was. And watching your hero fucking die, but you know, he he died doing what he was doing. And I think you heard me say earlier, I felt like it was Sterling Mullins' fault. Like I felt like somebody should take him out. And in the end, that wasn't what it was. Senior was blocking, trying to run his team up there, and he wasn't having nothing of it. And just that's what it was. But anyway, it's just always been a Senior fan. I'm 51 years old, and as long as I remember, I'm a Senior guy. And when he left, I default became a junior guy, and besides that, I'm always a Chevy guy. So that's what I'm going to say about that. Fair enough.
Yep. By the way, it was the July race at Daytona that same year in 2001.
All right. Was it? Oh, okay. I thought it was the next year. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
And then
you're right.
JP, any other thoughts?
Yeah. So, uh, I I was really young. I believe it happened the year after my Make-A-Wish event. Uh, when I met Bobby Obani, or soon after I met Bobby Obani in Phoenix, and I just remember, um, me and my guy were watching the race, and I didn't know what was going on. I mean, now, now I go help out at medical school, um, at Mercy College here in town. So, I mean, if I saw something medically wrong, um, with a driver, yeah, I would probably motion for the paramedic to get over there, and those poor doctors have to feel miserable every time the anniversary comes up to think we couldn't save this guy. Um, don't know who um don't know if um there are feelings with all the medical team that might have been involved if there's some skill in the sport, but yeah, that's my take on it. Nobody ever talks about how how much they um how much they really try to keep the drivers safe and do a great job of it. It was just a fluke accident.
That's a great point, JP. And I'd like to say this one last thing. Dale Earnhardt passing was a fucking real wake up call to all of NASCAR. Hans device, safer barriers, all this shit is a direct relation to Dale Earnhardt passing. That's it's all a direct relation, 100%, because they were like, holy fuck, this the same guy that had fucking flipped on that track 6, 7, 8 times. He's like, oh, fuck, that car still got fucking wheels on it. Like, get out of the ambulance and get back in the car and drive it away. The guy had survived so many fucking crazy crashes. And the most, it kind of looked innocuous how he crashed. It just straight up to the wall, boom, pow, and it cost him his life. But I'm telling you, the safety changes that came into this sport from him passing they're massive. They're huge. We've seen so many big crashes nowadays that probably would have taken your life a couple of years ago to being completely survivable, walking away. Right? It's
Well, look at the Newman wreck. What Daytona 500 a couple years ago.
Absolutely, 100%. Absolutely, and that's why I'd say that that's the. I think Dale will be proud of that legacy just for the fact that he's been in so many crazy wrecks. That car flipping around, flying around, he's fucking walking away from it. And like I said, just getting that turn fucking hard, fucking up to the wall, cost him his life. And they were like, well, why did it cost him life? Well, it was basal skull fracture, and we got to figure out how to fucking contain people in these seats instead of, fucking 200 miles an hour to whatever the speed was when he hit the fucking wall. And you know what I'm saying? I feel like that is actually a really, really good deal that it came out of that, because people were like, well, if Dale Earnhardt dies, like fucking everybody can die.
Yeah, and to go along with that, like we look just to your point and to JP's point, that the safety features that came stemming from that incident, I would say that gets added to an already iconic legacy that Dale Earnhardt had already left, and his memory is living on through all of these safety features that these drivers take for luxury now. Um, fans, I heard at one point complaining at the fact of how many tracks are now getting the safer barriers, and it seems like every track is now getting updated walls, and they don't like the packages that are being put out on cars, and to because it's slowing down the cars as opposed to making them faster. But all of that is stemming from that one incident, and NASCAR is continuously evolving and continuously changing to make sure that they can still put a good product on the track, but at the same time, these guys and girls have to go home to their families at the end of this thing, and that's their number
Absolutely.
one priority.
Absolutely. And furthermore on that point, how many things where we've seen where guys have getting turned to the inside and going down to the inside wall and smacking the shit out of that and getting hurt to fuck. And they realized we put safer barriers everywhere where it absorbs some of that impact. And it's just
Yeah, and
huge.
the wreck that I was thinking of when you guys were talking about examples of um, wrecks that should have killed people, I still look at wasn't it Austin Dillon, where it was just like the front
Yep.
and the rear
Yep.
of the in-car was completely gone. It was just the driver cage that was left.
Absolutely. It
Yeah.
was just the
And
containment
he was
area.
still he was still fined.
Absolutely.
He was A-okay.
Yes. Walked away from it. Right? Walked away from it.
Yeah, or even the
It's-
Xfinity Series crash of Kyle Busch's back to start the 2015 season, where he found the one bit of wall that wasn't safer barriered and
Right.
still
And
was
just
able
pile
to
in there.
was still able to return later that year.
Right.
And
So
when the
I would
championship
like to say that though at the end of this, we lost Dale, but Dale leaving, I'm sure Dale will be proud of this, is that he's probably saved fucking 10 people's lives just because they were like, oh, we can do better than this, right? We can make this better than this. We can protect them, right? It doesn't have to be slamming into hard concrete walls with, right? Safer barrier is one of the best improvements I've seen in my life. I'm 50 years. I've been 30-year fan for sure. And the safer barriers, we've all seen it, like slow motion replays when someone piles in there. You see that safer barrier, you have like, foot and a half. That is taking so much impact for us out of what the driver's going to feel. It's
And
huge.
I think Chuck was getting ready to say something.
Sorry, Chuck. Fire away, bud. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was just saying that year that Kyle Busch did that he won a championship with, if I'm correct, right? His
Yeah,
first
after
year,
breaking
first
both
championship?
legs. Yep.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I say he won
Pretty cool.
Sonoma later that year too, which is just adds to the craziness of breaking both legs and then winning a road course, which is a physical type of racing. Where you need
Absolutely.
both legs.
And that was a wild impact too, like straight piling right in there.
All right, Jamie, do you have the next topic pulled up? Because I think it was something along these same lines, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So stemming from that, we looked at the corporation of DEI, and with everything that Dale had brought into it, with now being a 3-car team, and with all the success that they were having up to that moment, ultimately DEI at that point spiraled into a downfall, and ultimately is no longer became a team or a functioning organization. So the question I wanted to bring up to everybody is, during that time, could DEI have been savable?
Yes. The question is, if you remove Teresa from it, it was totally survivable. They would have been fucking on top right now.
And who would you say would have been the one that could have saved it?
I would have.
I'm gonna go with Junior, but I'm saying
I think Junior was
Teresa
a little too
fucked that
young
all
though
up.
at that point to step
at that
up
point,
as a team owner and leader of that organization.
I think Teresa definitely fucked it up, and I think Carrie
Teresa did
Earnhardt
fuck it up.
and I think Carrie Earnhardt and Dale Earnhardt Jr. should have been the ones that took it over. But hey, that's just me.
That's a good opinion. I like it. Like I said, Teresa
well, at the
fucked it
time,
up.
they were both young too, but it'd been cool if Richard Childress, even Hendricks, picked it up just to keep it under the wing for a little bit and then gave it to the boys, and the whole family.
Yep.
There you go. Yep.
But
Yep.
ultimately,
Teresa.
Teresa
So we're
ran
all
it
in
right into the
agreement that.
ground.
So we're all in agreement that she fucked it up. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Pretty
Well,
much.
with that, where she went wrong is she could not make a decision in a timely manner. And again, I was listening to Sirius XM, not NASCAR on Sirius, and they had some interviews, and one of the people that was within DEI at that point in time, like when it came time to making financial decisions, she always had to kind of sit on and really ponder, because the beauty about her and Dale Sr.'s husband and wife relationship was Dale, he was a big spender. He he would have spent every dollar that he would have made at the very first opportunity that he could, if he thought it meant making his team better. To where Teresa was the saver. She was the one that would tell him that that's a bad idea and not to go in that direction and to save money for something else. So she didn't have that opinion on the opposite side to balance her out. And the fact that it's just the fact that she wasn't comfortable with making quick decisions or timely mannered decisions that sponsors and NASCAR and things like that require those kind of timelines. That was the ultimate downfall in that. But within the organization, there I can't really say I put the full blame on her. I know she definitely didn't help things, and a lot of the blame can go to her. But we don't know what went on inside the team post that race. Just like any other business, there could have been people arguing amongst each other, trying to figure out who should be the head racing operations guy. And you deal with the grievance process and the trying to do the right thing, but you don't know who to trust because upper management were arguing with each other and things like that. And the arguing with each other thing, that's not a guess that I have. That was also part of the interview that I listened to on the radio from somebody who was inside the building. So a lot of it, I think they failed her by not coming together and saying, "Look, we got you," as opposed to trying to look after their own wallets and try to become the guy. But as far as who could have saved it, I would probably say towards the later end of DEI, Kelly Earnhardt, now Kelly Earnhardt Miller, could have been the one to save it because she was very savvy in the world of business. She wasn't a race car driver like Kerry or Dale Jr. were. She grew up on the business side of things, and to this day, she's still very good at what she's doing with Junior Motorsports. And I feel like had they turned to her with her still being brought up in the business world of when it comes to race teams, I think she could have been the one to kind of head it up and take it over for Teresa, and could have saved the thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Well, I get
the other thing was looking at that driver lineup when you remove, because technically, I think Dale Sr., I know we talked about it being a 3-car team, but I think it was technically a 2-car team because Earnhardt was technically Richard Childress Racing, right?
Yes, he was.
So,
Yes, he was.
So
100%.
DEI had Michael Waltrip, who I think everybody, even after that Daytona 500 win, still had a major question mark on was he really the guy? And I think we learned over the final few years that no, he really wasn't the guy. And then a 1-car team with just Dale Jr. wasn't going to last long just because I think Jr. still needed a mentor, a veteran mentor on track that could help lead him the way that his father was for the first couple of years.
Well, wasn't Steve Park part of that group still at that point in time, or was that the year that he got injured?
Steve Park was a part of that group.
Yeah, and then Steve Park's injury happened, what, early 2002 or something? Or when was his injury?
Steve Park was a part of that group.
Significant injury there. Was it Watkins Glen?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, so he was a part of that group, though.
Yeah, so, yeah, they did have another car that I forgot about, but... Yeah, with unfortunate timing and then obviously kind of questions looming around the driver lineup. It was certainly not an easy situation for anybody to end up in.
Nobody expected it. How it could have been?
Yep.
Seriously, right? What do you do with that? So again, I feel like Teresa could have done a better job, and we would still be DEI, and we'd be out there kicking fucking ass, and it's just not the way that played out.
Here I
Well,
got something.
another thing that didn't
Fire
also
away,
help.
Chuck.
Well, back to the topic of the wreck. Explain to me how Michael Waltrip walked away from hitting that wall in Bristol.
Yeah, right. That's some of the craziest thing you'll ever see. That car was
That,
just
I am,
crumpled. Just
yes,
crumpled. That car was folded the fuck up.
yeah,
All of it.
and that's just
Absolutely.
that was crazy.
Yep.
So there's been talk that I've heard from many people that said that Dale was he didn't wear his fucking seatbelts too tight. You know, he preferred them
Dale
little
was
right.
dead.
I
Dale
say
was
the
dead.
open face helmet
Well,
too.
Right. So we'll always hear that talk about that.
Yeah,
It's right. It is what it is.
he's missed.
Yeah, he is missed. I still miss him to this fucking day. Son of a bitch.
You think he'd be up in the booth?
I know he'd be up in the booth because he knows more about it than anybody does.
Honestly, I don't think he would have lasted.
He would
in the
not
booth.
be in the booth.
I say he wouldn't. He wouldn't be able to keep himself under control. I mean, he'd be more out of control than Stewart has been in the booth.
To see that grin, that mustache of the boot, that'd be cool.
I think so too. I think so too.
Especially with the way that the general culture has shifted, where it's like, oh yeah, we got to be so sensitive all the time. He would not have adapted well to that culture.
Yeah, he would have been pretty. He would have been probably pretty Dale Earnhardt. So.
Yep.
That's great.
All right. And then, did we have another topic there, Jamie?
We did. So, in I believe it was 1987, he was given the nickname the Intimidator, following his ability to get more out of the car than anyone else could at that moment in time. When Bill Elliott tried to turn him for the win, and he skimmed through the grass and still managed to win
in the grass, baby. And it wasn't a pass. He just stayed in front. It wasn't a pass.
Yep, he stayed in front and won.
Yep.
So that was when he initially got the nickname the Intimidator. So we're gonna end the conversation with this final topic. What is one of your favorite Dale Earnhardt moments that coincidentally helped you realize in your own way that he was indeed the Intimidator?
Well,
I don't know where to start. I really don't.
I would always say I was a Jeff Gordon fan, and they were always battling it out. So it was always entertaining watching them two get along. It was crazy. It was the best racing ever.
Earnhardt saw something in him, saw money, and they played it well.
Yeah, they liked each other, even though they showed hate.
They made a brand.
They liked each other.
Yeah. I don't know. There was a few of mine. Look at the way he did at Bristol with Terry Labonte all the time.
Exactly. That's what I was gonna talk. I was gonna say that, man.
I just wanted to rattle his cage.
Mark Martin.
And they do. Oh, poor Mark Martin. He went in the pits under caution and lost the race. But he intimidated everybody, and he just give you a grin at the end of the race, no matter how mad Rusty Wallace was.
Rusty Wallace, man.
He just give you that grin and keep on moving.
I love that. I love
it. He didn't fight nobody. He just gave you a grin and keep on walking. That irritated people more. That was great. That's what I would remember about that. Just how he was. And after Sunday, man, he was your buddy. You know what I mean? Let's go hunting Monday, you know? Leave it on the track.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
All right. So, JP, did you have anything you wanted to mention about kind of when you acknowledged that Dale was the Intimidator?
I'm sorry, JP. I was just gonna say that time when he got out and cleaned his windshield, still was driving.
Yep.
Right?
Right. For
What the
me,
fuck, man?
I really look up to Dale as a person, and to this day, I'll still watch highlights of him. I would say my favorite Dale moment happened uh, in 2001 after he already passed, with Dale Earnhardt winning back at Daytona, and those two able to celebrate the two wins together.
You have no choice. You're eating now.
Thank you.
Fucking doing this for my
All right.
Yeah, one of my favorite moments was I forget what track they were at, but he was talking about Jeff Gordon, and Dale ended up finishing second in that race after giving Jeff everything he could, doing all the typical Dale Earnhardt tactics of just trying to smooth bump him to get him loose, and tried to move him up in the track a little bit, but Jeff wasn't having it. And on that day, Jeff just got more out of the car than Dale had. And this was during the full on like rivalry that those two had. And Dale just, when they got to put that mic in front of him, he was just like, man, he's like, I gave that boy everything I got, and he's like, that SB, he withstood and he got me, so kudos to him.
Do you remember when old Gore was out on the track? It was starting to, I think, rain, and Dale Earnhardt being interviewed. I don't know why that boy's wide open right now. He's going to wreck. And it was practice,
Yep.
and Gore ended up wrecking.
Yep, he's seen things that the world didn't see. But the crazy part was when he chose Michael Waltrip to be part of DEI, Jimmy Johnson was coming onto the scene when he made that call. So he ultimately chose Michael Waltrip instead of Jimmy. Imagine how that could have turned things around.
Well, I mean, that's just what if. You know, I mean, Jimmy
Yeah,
had
for
his,
sure.
you know, that's what if. Maybe Jimmy would have never did what he did. We don't know.
He would have probably never been part of Hendrick had he signed with DEI.
Yep.
But you think he would have won that many championships?
Hard to tell, because
Probably not.
hard to know where the DEI level of equipment would have been if they had more consistency and stability at the driver position. Because aside from Dale Jr., after Steve Park's crash, I mean, they just never really had the same consistent driver roster. Again, aside from the 8.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's hard to say, but it's just a fun thing to think about, like
Yeah.
the shoulda, couldas.
What stinks is we'll never know the answer. It's like crap.
Yeah, facts.
You
Facts.
know, we can't Google that one.
But yeah, unless anyone else got anything to chime in on when they realized that he was indeed the Intimidator. The last final question is, this will be our W Energy Bowl prediction. Now that we are 2 weeks away, we're gonna have our prediction being who is going to win the pole position, and who's going to get second going into the 500, because we will be doing this podcast next week while the qualifying is going on.
Right
so
after,
we will be giving you real time. What's that?
Aren't we going to be doing it right after?
It's possible. I kind of like the idea of doing like a real time, at least towards the end of the qualifying session, to kind of build a little drama with it and kind of rub elbows for those who may have completely missed on their bowl prediction, and kind of give kudos to those who may have hit it. So we'll see. We'll see how everything lines up. But so that's going to be our bowl prediction. Who is going to get the pole award for first and second place going into the 500.
Blaney.
So not winning, but just getting the pole.
Correct.
Okay.
Who's going to get the first and second spot? That will be solidified to starting the Daytona 500 in those positions.
I'm gonna go with dark horse Ty Gibbs for the pole.
Oh,
and Kyle Busch for second.
And I don't see it any way that it isn't going to be probably at least one Hendrick car on that front row. And honestly, I could very much see a lockout between some combination of maybe it's Elliott and the 24 on the front row. I would probably say Byron over Elliott would be my prediction for the front row, but those Hendrick cars are just in a league all their own pretty much in Daytona 500 qualifying. Rumble?
Make sure you're writing these down, Ryan, for next week.
Oh, okay. Alright. Well, let me go ahead and get something up to actually write them on.
I'm just
trying not to be. I'm just trying not to be a homer.
I'm just throwing a Scud missile here. I'm going with Blaney.
All right.
Not a Scud missile. He's a champion.
All right. So Rumble, you said Blaney, and who else? Who was the other person you had on the front row?
Blaney. The other person on the front row, fuck, it's gonna be Logano, and I hate that fucking guy.
Scud missile be like Corley Jordan.
Ben, you said Gibbs on pole with Kyle. Ben.
Hey Ben.
I believe that's who he chose.
You said Gibbs on pole, Kyle Busch on the outside.
Yes, correct.
Okay, just want to make sure I'm getting them right for what I'm writing down here.
I would say Chase Elliott, but I'm not going to be a homer.
I have a feeling
since I think I'm the only non-Elliott fan here. I don't mind going and putting him on my front row.
I'm an Elliott fan, but I don't feel like Elliott and his fucking team are on top of the game right now. He done broke his legs snowboarding and fucked his career up.
Yeah, but do you remember the last time a non-Hendrick Chevy engine qualified on the pole position?
Nope.
If you're looking at specifically Hendrick engines, it's been a while. I know technically JTG Doherty qualified on the pole in 2020 with Stenhouse with a Hendrick motor.
Okay.
But if you're going back and looking for the last time a Hendrick motor wasn't it, I think you would have to go back to like Austin Dillon in 2014 with the RCR motor. I think that was the last time a non Hendrick Chevy got on the front row.
I'd like to throw this out for future discussions. What's Chevy going to come with for their next fucking car? What are they going to bring?
Malibu's coming back.
No, I think it'll be a redesigned Camaro, but at this point, I think we're going to wait and see what happens with the two new bodies that we have for this year before we go and start writing off the Camaro, because we know how much of a swing and a miss that was the last time they tried to redesign the Chevy body.
But I got picks for you.
All right.
I'll go with the pole. I'm gonna give it to Busher. We're gonna put Kyle Busch second.
The Busher doesn't sound bad. That guy can drive. He's got a hot rod.
All right. Jamie?
So, somebody fell asleep.
Hmm?
Is that JP? Did JP fall asleep?
Somebody's sleeping.
Man, either that or that was just a product of your pick there, Chuck. It was a snoozer pick.
Yeah.
um,
Oh man,
So-
pass that.
I think Alex Bowman is going to get the pole because, like I said, Hendrick just seems to be on top of, for whatever reason, qualifying. But I think second place is just going to be a play on to the momentum and the good mindset. And unfortunately, it's going to be Denny Hamlin on the outside.
Fuck that shit.
I know. I don't want to see it, but
I'm
he-
just
him,
hacking
Joey,
on you.
and some other guys just have a knack for super speedways. And I think momentum stemming from the Clash is going to be good for them as a team mentality-wise, saying, hey, it was the first race, we got a dub, we beat your favorite driver. And they're going to take that into Daytona and get on the outside pole.
Yep. So going back through the list, by the way, so we had Bowman last year, Larson, Bowman, Stenhouse, then Byron, Bowman, Elliott, Gordon, and then Austin Dillon in an RCR Chevy, and then Danica Patrick in SHR back when they used Hendrick motors as well. So I think Austin Dillon's
All right, I'm
so
changing my vote. I think Dana Patrick.
No changing your vote now after you got stats.
Nope.
Well,
It's
I don't think
Danica
Danica's finishing on the
Patrick.
pole position of this race.
Is Danica Patrick the fucking win it all?
All right. So now we just got JP. JP, you there?
He in Dreamland.
So I'm just gonna write down Chase Elliott finishing first and second then for him.
Well, we got the first official black flag of the year. And
was he actually snoring or what? JP, wake up!
He is.
Let me go ahead and call him and see if I can wake him up.
Let's just go ahead and end this thing, Ryan.
Okay.
He thinks he fell asleep on his YouTube.
Oh, this is the beauty of the Let Down podcast. You never know what you're going to get on here.
I certainly would have thought I'd be the first one to fall asleep on the podcast.
Oh man,
that was great. I heard somebody snoring, and I'm like, is somebody snoring? And then we had a cop next to us, so I had to dim my phone.
All right, take us out, Ryan.
All right, so thank you guys for everybody that tuned in and listened to us here on the Lap Down podcast. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you guys did, if you guys were watching over on YouTube, go ahead and give us a subscribe, and that way you're notified when we post the next episode, whether that's a live right after the qualifying. And if you're listening over on Spotify, go ahead and give us a follow. But until next time, hopefully you enjoy.
Hopefully this wasn't a snoozer just like JP thought it was.
Yep. Yeah, hopefully no one ended up using it. Although maybe they could use our podcast to help them fall asleep next time.
I'm laughing.
Hey, you can go over to W Energy and get some melatonin. Thanks to the JP special.
I hope it.
No, Bulletproof Coffee sells melatonin.
Oh, that's what it was. Bulletproof Coffee.
I was gonna say he should probably go for the coffee instead of the melatonin.
Or maybe something from the Alkali Project could help keep him awake.
Actually, something from the Alkali Project will keep him awake.
I hope
that guy's putting out good music, man.
Yep.
Good music.
Don't we have an announcement for him?
I hope his.
I believe he's making it next week.
Yeah. Yeah. So next week, Will Bain from the Alkali Project will be joining us. He will be giving us some insight on the band at the Alkali Project, as well as talking about the inspiration that he got for creating our intro for us here at the Lapdown Podcast, as well as talking some good old Daytona 500 fun, because at that point the field will be set and we'll be gearing up with all things Daytona 500 and making bold predictions, having a great conversation, and just having a good time.
Yep,
And on
that
that
is,
note,
there's JP chiming back in.
On that note, I gotta say one thing. Will knows his shit. He loves racing. He knows racing. If you're actually into F1 racing, he probably knows as much as any of you do. So, Will's a good addition to the cast, and I look forward to hearing it. So, look forward to seeing you, Will.
Yes,
All
sir.
right.
All right.
Absolutely.
So on the count of 3, we will say deuces. 1, 2, 3. Deuces!
Deuces.